All right, let's dive into something you probably never think about, but that keeps our entire economy from grinding to a halt. We're going to go behind the scenes and look at the hidden plumbing of the financial system. It's called the money market, and it is working around the clock to keep things running. So let's see how it all works.
You know, the best way to wrap your head around this is with a really great analogy from our source material. So picture this. If the entire banking system, all the loans, all the ATMs, everything are the wheels of a car, then the money market, well, that's the gearbox. It's the thing making sure those wheels turn at just the right speed every single day.
And that's really the core question, isn't it? A car can't just be stuck in first gear forever, and neither can a bank. So why on earth would a bank need to shift gears in the first place? Well, it all boils down to a very basic problem that they have to solve every single day.
Okay, so let's start right there, with that fundamental challenge. What is this daily problem that every bank, from the huge global ones to your local branch, has to deal with? Turns out, it's a constant high-stakes balancing act.
It sounds kind of weird, right? You'd think a bank is just a big building full of money, but it's not. Just like your own personal account, their cash levels are always fluctuating. At the end of any business day, they could be swimming in cash, or they could be running a little dry.
So why does this cash mismatch even happen? Well, it's usually down to three main things. First, just the simple ebb and flow of us, the customers. You know, one day there are more withdrawals than deposits. Second, there's the whole check clearing process, which shifts millions between banks every day. And third, a bank's own loans and investments are always maturing, which can create these unpredictable flows of cash.
And in the world of finance, this whole challenge has a name. It's called managing liquidity. It's basically the art of making sure you always have enough cash ready to go to pay everything you owe right when you owe it. And for a bank, messing this up is just not an option.
So how do you solve a problem that happens literally every day across an entire industry? You build a system. And that brings us to the really elegant solution, the money market. Let's see how this thing actually works.
And here it is. The money market isn't some building on Wall Street, it's a huge interconnected system. And its main job, its whole purpose, is to let banks that have a little too much cash lend to banks that have a little too little. It's like the great balancing act for the entire financial world.
Okay, so this system basically works in two main ways. The first is pretty simple. Banks just deal directly with each other, and the second involves trading some special financial products. Let's break both of those down, starting with the most straightforward one.
This first method is the simplest, most common way banks handle this stuff. They just lend directly to each other. You can almost think of it like a private club where members can borrow from one another at a moment's notice to cover any shortfalls.
Let's just walk through a really simple example. So imagine it's the end of the business day, and Bank A realizes, uh-oh, we're a bit short on cash. At that exact same moment, Bank B over here has more cash than it knows what to do with. The money market is what lets them find each other instantly and make a deal.
And look, we are not talking about small change here. These are what they call wholesale transactions. So in this case, Bank A needs to borrow 100 million ringgit. That's the kind of scale we're on. Massive amounts of money just sloshing around to keep the whole system stable.
So what does a loan like this actually look like? It's surprisingly simple. Bank B basically just takes its extra 100 million and puts it in Bank A as a deposit. And these deposits are for incredibly short periods of time. We're talking anywhere from just overnight to maybe a few months and a year at the absolute max. And what's really wild is just how short-term we're talking. I mean, look at this. Nearly 70% of all the trading volume is just for overnight loans. A bank borrows money when it closes up for the day and pays it back the very next morning. A lot of the time, that's just to make sure all of that day's checks have cleared. But what if a bank needs a different kind of flexibility? Well, that brings us to the second major part of the money market. It's a marketplace for buying and selling what are basically very safe, very short-term financial IOUs. They're called money market instruments. Think of one as a simple promise to pay back a certain amount of money on a certain day in the near future. But the key here is that they're transferable, which means if a bank is holding one and suddenly needs cash, it can just sell it to another bank, easy peasy.
So how do you make money on these? It's a really simple and elegant system. These things are sold at a discount. So for example, you might buy an IOU that promises to pay you 100,000 ringgit in 3 months, but you only pay 99,000 for it today. And then you just wait.
And there it is. Your profit is baked right into the deal from the start.
That 1,000 ringgit difference between what you paid and the full face value you get at the end, that is your profit. It's simple, it's safe, and it's predictable.
Okay, now here's where it gets really clever. The value of these IOUs isn't just fixed. Their price actually moves up and down in the opposite direction of the general interest rates in the economy. This is a really fundamental idea in finance.
Let's break that down. Say you bought that IOU we just talked about with its fixed return. If the central bank suddenly raises interest rates, well, any new IOUs getting issued are going to offer a better return. So all of a sudden, your older IOU doesn't look quite as good, and its price on the market actually goes down.
And you guessed it, the opposite is also true. If interest rates fall, your IOU with its higher return locked in suddenly looks like an amazing deal. It becomes more valuable, and its price on the market goes up. This relationship is absolutely crucial. It's how changes in interest rates get transmitted through the entire financial system. So, we've seen how banks lend to each other and how they trade these short-term IOUs. Let's pull back for a second and just talk about why this whole system is so incredibly important for all of us.
And this brings us right back to where we started with that car analogy. The money market, this constant, high-speed, behind-the-scenes shuffling of cash, it really is the gearbox. It allows the wheels of the banking system to keep turning smoothly, making sure that when you go to an ATM or swipe your card, the whole system is stable and just works.
The money market is really a brilliant piece of financial engineering for managing the day-to-day needs of the banking system. But it does leave us with one last really big question. This system works perfectly when there's enough cash, or oil, to stick with the analogy, circulating. But what happens in a crisis when it feels like the oil itself is running out for everyone all at once? Well, that's a topic for another time.